Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this episode, I'm going to be going over some of the status effects, so if you guys are a little bit confused on what status effects you should use or what all the status effects actually do, this is the video for you. Yeah, we're going to be going over all of these ones, so make sure you stick around and watch to the end. Let's roll the intro. Alright, hey guys. So the first stats effect we're going to be going over here is gamma. So what gamma actually does, if you want to look in the screen below, it'll actually have the full description of gamma. I'll just give my quick description of it, and but if you guys want to read the actual full description, it's just below me here. So anytime an enemy takes gamma damage, they're going to get like a green glow around them as soon as you fill up that full bar. And this will deal increased tick damage, so it's not a huge amount of tick damage, but it does tick damage constantly. Also, if they get close to another enemy, it's going to spread onto that enemy, and they will take the tick damage. Another thing with this, after you kill the enemy, if they have the status effect on them, they will blow up, causing any enemy in that area where they blow up at to get the gamma damage as well. Now, this isn't the largest amount of damage out there, but it does deal pretty good damage as far as the tick damage. But also, every time you hit with this ability, you're going to deal the increased amount of damage. So, like, you'll get your normal damage, plus you'll get your gamma damage, plus if they have the status effect fully on them, they will take the tick damage. So it can stack up to a lot of damage overall. So this one here, I would say, is the gamma damage is very good overall. It's in my opinion, it's one of my favorites. Now, it doesn't really benefit your team a whole lot. This is just strictly damage output. There's a few other ones here that can really increase like survivability for teammates and all that sort of stuff. Like that really will help out teammates. This is more or less a selfish one that's just gonna really increase your damage output. So yeah, really good on a AoE damage dealer or a very high damage dealer that you just want to put output the most damage possible. So overall, I would give this status effect probably about a 4 out of 5. It's a very strong status effect, and really good in all situations besides helping out teammates. So if you're playing with a group, it's not really going to help out your teammates. Besides, you're going to kill the enemies a little bit quicker. So next on the list here we have shock damage. Oops, if I can actually get on there. So shock damage. So what shock damage actually does is every time an enemy is shocked, you're going to deal increased crit. Increased attack will occur, so you're getting an increased crit chance, and you get an increased damage amount. So pretty much the same as a what was it? Plasma, or not plasma, friggin' gamma that I was saying about, that deals the additional damage every time you hit. Shock does that as well, but shock deals an increased crit chance and crit damage. So this is really good if you just want big flat numbers. This is going to give you big numbers. And I have noticed, like, if you just go and put shock on, your normal attacks deal big amounts of damage because you're going to be getting more crits. Your crits deal more damage, and also you get the flat damage from the shock, which increases. So this is very good for just flat damage. Now, it doesn't do any status effects or anything like that. Doesn't do anything to debuff your team, like your enemies, or anything like that. So it's just a straight up damage, which is why I sort of put this one a little bit lower. This one I feel is around like probably a 3 out of 5 for just because it doesn't really do a whole lot on the battlefield. It's just strictly the enemy that you're hitting. So on bigger enemies, yes, this is very good, but on smaller enemies, which is a lot of the enemies that you're going to be fighting in this game, it's not going to be as good because it's just strictly hitting the one enemy that you're doing, and yes, it'll do a lot more damage, but again, it's only for that. So this would be very good on like maybe like if you're building a build that's just strictly built for like beating bosses or larger enemies. That's like your goal, to just be the big enemy killer in the group or whatever. This one is very good, and like I said, for boss fights, it becomes very strong doing boss fights with this type of a build because you deal that increased damage. So I give this one a 3 out of 5 just because it's literally just good for just certain aspects. So next one we'll go over is Pim. So what Pim does is it's one of my favorite abilities in the game. Now I don't use it a whole lot on my builds, but it is one of my favorites. So it's gonna shrink the enemy. Now the reason why I say it's not one of my favorites is because it does make enemies a bit harder to hit when they're shrunk, especially if they're smaller enemies. But this status effect is, in my opinion, has some of the best stats in the game. So first of all, it's one of the hardest to inflict on the enemy. So it has the longest bar that you have to actually fill to get this Pim to shrink the enemies. But while they are shrunk, not only do they deal less damage while they're shrunk, but you deal increased damage to them. Now there's no numbers on this, but as far as what I could tell, it's around a 15 and a 15. So around a 15% increased damage to you and a 15% decreased damage to the enemy that is shrunk. So this is very strong, considering you are now any enemy that you hit and you can get that status effect put onto is now pretty much 30% less than what they were. So this for boss fights, incredibly strong because they are dealing 15% less damage and you're dealing 15% more damage to them and larger enemies. This is going to be very good. And Thor, I think, is one of the best persons to throw this on just because this is a very hard status effect to put on, and anyone that's played Thor knows his signature attack with the spins. It can really increase your stats effect output. Like you put on stats effects like nothing. Um, so this is a very good ability, and I would say honestly, I'd put it at a 5 out of 5, but I'll probably put it as a 4 out of 5 just for the simple fact that this is one of the hardest ones to put on, and it does get that thing so that if you put it onto like a smaller enemy, it's very hard now to hit that enemy. So I'll put this out as 4 out of 5, but honestly, I think it's one of the best as far as how much actually it does, because this inflicts the battlefield immensely. So next on the list we have Cryo. Now Cryo, I've been experimenting a lot with Cryo. I'm building a cap build, and it's based around Cryo damage, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. But so how Cryo works is once the stats effect is filled, the enemy takes the cryo damage, so that it's one of those little tick things that the gamma does. The gamma does. Um, but what it does is it freezes the enemy too, so it decreases their movement speed. Now, this is very good for like faster enemies. Actually, it's good for any enemies. It's really good for fast enemies, but it's really good for any enemy because well, now you can easily dodge anything. Their movement is like reduced like incredible. This is incredibly good on AoE damage attacks, which is why I'm running it on Cap. Cap has that shield throw that you can hit multiple enemies at once. Um, this thing, like Cryo, in my opinion, is one of the better status effects if you can hit it on multiple enemies. It's not so good if you can just affect on one enemy, but if you can hit, like go into a room and hit like 10 enemies and slow them all down, you're like you have no really chance of dying because they're like incredibly slow. Um, so in my opinion, I feel it's one of the better status effects again because of that. I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5. I was really harsh on this stats effect before. I thought it was just garbage, but after I started experimenting around with it, it became very good in my opinion. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 for the simple fact that it's again only good in a certain scenario. This is only good when you can hit multiple enemies the once. Um, but yeah, that's that effect. This is very good against enemies that are quick or just in large groups if you have a person that can hit multiple enemies, and not with your heroics because your heroics obviously don't use the that type of ability. So very good on people that can use their normal attacks to do that. Um, so we'll jump into the next. Okay, so the next two I haven't had a lot of playtime with. The Cosmic, because only certain characters have the abilities. I've only leveled up 3 of my characters, and the other 3 apparently maybe have access to these. Now, I've talked to people that have had access to these abilities, that have characters leveled up with them, so I'll go over what they're good for, what they're not so good for, and what I think, how I think they're gonna rate. Um, so the first one is cosmic damage. Now, cosmic damage, as soon as you fill the bar, the enemy takes increased damage. So that's a very good thing right off the hop. But also, you get life steal back. So it's pretty much the only ability out there that gives you a life back, which is going to be very good for a character that doesn't have a lot of healing on them. Like, um, first off my mind, I would think like maybe like Iron Man that doesn't get a lot of, there's not a lot of things in his kit that gives him healing back. Something like that would be really good on him. Black Widow, there's not a ton in her kit besides the executes she can constantly do. Um, so I think those side effects on them would be pretty good. Um, to get that healing back. Now, this seems very strong to me because, first of all, like, not only do you get to deal extra damage to the enemy that this is affected by, it also gives you the ability to get health back from every single time that they are hit. So I think that alone is very strong. So I'm going to give this, for right now, a 4 out of 5. Now, this could very possibly be a 5 out of 5. Again, I haven't had a lot of time out of it, and if you guys have had time trying this, let me know in the comments. But as far as the information that I've gotten, I think that's about where this would sit. But again, this could be very good, especially in like the raids coming out. That maybe this, like the raids could be very hard, and any little bit of extra health that you can get would be very nice. So this could be very essential for raids for certain characters. And last but not least, the other one that I haven't had a lot of time playing around with is Plasma. Now, one of my buddies, Ambush, he plays his Iron Man. He plays with Plasma, I believe that's what he said that he has on it. Um, and so how Plasma works is as soon as the status effect is filled, the enemy becomes unable to attack. So any attack they're in the middle of doing, it's going to stop that attack. Not only will it stop that, it stops them from attacking because they become staggered um, by this attack, so they're going to not be able to attack for a little bit, and they get the damage, so the of the status effect. So this I think is very good against boss fights, being able to stagger bosses, interrupt them from using their attacks. Very strong, good against larger enemies. Um, but I feel at the same time this is, again, it's not helping your teammates out a lot besides actually staggering those enemies. Now this can become very essential if you're fighting like boss fights that are like incredibly hard to beat through. Right now in the game though, I don't find there's a whole lot of like super challenging content that enemies really need to be like staggered or put off. Now, don't get me wrong, there's like stilettos. I absolutely hate stilettos. They can hit like trucks and they can kill you very quickly. But in my opinion, for right now, it's not the most like the best ability set out there, just because, or the best status effect out there, just because of staggering enemies. I don't find is that great considering most people and their builds. There's a ways to stagger enemies just from how their skills are set up. Now again, I haven't had time playing this, so I could be 100% wrong. But just from what I've heard, reading descriptions about it, I'm gonna give this about a 3. Now again, this could change once I actually get time, hands-on experience with this, and actually see how it fully works and what it's good for and what it's not good for. But for right now, that's what I'm giving it. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you guys played with these things and what you guys think and what your favorite status effect is. Um, in my opinion, my favorite is Pim, but it's just because it's fun to play with. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys feel is your favorite, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. 2 step out.